Welcome to This Explainer. Right out of the gate, we're going to absolutely shatter a massive misconception about human history. We so often picture the medieval era as this deeply fractured, completely disconnected time. But the reality? Well, it's far more vibrant and honestly a lot more fascinating. We're diving into the life of a guy whose epic odyssey literally laid the foundational stones for our modern, interconnected world. So let's set the scene. Imagine a 14th century world where the continents felt less like a connected network and way more like a collection of isolated islands. For most of humanity back then, the horizon was just a hard, unyielding boundary. The lands beyond? Completely shrouded in rumor and, frankly, terrifying unknowns. Information traveled literally at the speed of a camel's gait. The whole concept of a shared human experience across vast distances just seemed like a fragile dream. But there is a single, frankly staggering number that immediately shatters that entire myth: 75,000. That is the incredible number of miles traveled by one single individual, Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Battuta. Born into a time when total isolation was the absolute norm, he traversed this massive, mind-boggling distance on foot, by camel, and by boat. All of this way, way before the invention of the engine. The sheer scale of his 30-year journey is just awe-inspiring. Born in Tangier, Morocco back in 1304, into a family of respected judges, he was originally meant for a pretty quiet life of scholarship. But, well, a restless curiosity was definitely simmering beneath the surface. At just 21 years old, he departs for the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, and from there, he just keeps pushing outward. He reaches India by 1330, embarks on these audacious voyages to China by 1342, and even crosses the brutally harsh Sahara Desert to Mali in 1352. The crazy thing is, he didn't start out as some seasoned explorer trying to conquer new territories or maximize merchant profits. He was just a pious 21-year-old pilgrim fulfilling a religious obligation. But as he traveled, his whole purpose evolved. Drawn in by the vibrant intellectual life of the Middle East, he turns into this inquisitive scholar seeking out learned minds. Then he adapts again, becoming a diplomatic envoy navigating some seriously complex political landscapes. Ultimately, he basically becomes the world's first global anthropologist, driven by an insatiable desire to understand diverse human cultures. Section 1. The Heart of the East, Immersion and Integration. So, after performing his pilgrimage in Mecca, Ibn Battuta didn't just pack up and return to Morocco. Instead, he plunges deeper into the vibrant Islamic heartlands, ultimately making this massive multi-year trek across incredibly treacherous mountain passes just to arrive at the wealthy, opulent Delhi Sultanate in India. Now, to really understand his unique perspective, we kind of have to contrast him with Marco Polo. Polo was, for all intents and purposes, the outsider. He viewed the East strictly through a European lens, and honestly, his fantastical accounts were met with pretty heavy skepticism back home. Ibn Battuta, however, he was the insider. Because he was a Muslim traveling through the heart of a shared Islamic world, he experienced deep, genuine integration. His legal training and shared faith meant he wasn't treated as a strange foreigner, but as a highly respected peer. To truly grasp what this immersion looked like, just consider his daily life. He wasn't observing from the sidelines. He was actively participating. He dined with influential sultans in Persia, marveling at cities like Esfahan. He debated heavy theology with learned jurists in Mecca. When he got to India, he actually served as a qadi, a judge, dispensing justice according to Islamic law for nearly 6 years under Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He documented the early military prowess of the burgeoning Ottoman Empire. And later on, he even survived and witnessed the devastating aftermath of the Black Death. He was basically experiencing the 14th century in high definition. Section 2. Into the Unfamiliar, Southeast Asia and China. In a really daring pivot, he leaves the volatile rule of the Delhi Sultan and throws himself right into the advanced maritime networks of the Indian Ocean, sailing his way through the Maldives, Bengal, and Sumatra. When he finally braves the perilous waters of the South China Sea in 1342, he arrives in the Chinese port cities of Quanzhou and Guangzhou. Now, these were not quiet, isolated outposts. Absolutely not. They were highly cosmopolitan centers, literally teeming with merchants from across Asia and far, far beyond. His meticulous documentation of these bustling ports is absolute proof of a highly sophisticated, globally connected 14th century trade network that the West barely even knew existed at the time. But, as far as he had traveled, China offered a totally new challenge.
His time there was marked by both incredible wonder and, honestly, a real degree of cultural disorientation, especially as he observed the syncretic nature of religious life there. While he was still treated with immense respect, for the very first time, this highly adaptable scholar experienced genuine culture shock. He was suddenly observing complex East Asian bureaucracies, indigenous beliefs, and Buddhist traditions that were profoundly different from his own background. And that gives us a rare, precious glimpse into exactly how these vastly different worldviews interacted.
Section 3. Africa and the Long Return. You'd really think that after surviving the South China Sea and the Black Death, he'd just be ready to settle down, right? Well, no. Instead, he faced a final, grueling test of physical endurance. In 1352, he sets out to brave the extreme heat and the unforgiving sands of the Sahara Desert. When he reaches Timbuktu, he documents a thriving center of Islamic scholarship and trade, firmly highlighting it as a major intellectual hub of the era. Journeying even further south into the powerful Mali Empire, he recorded elaborate royal courts, intricate justice systems, and vast wealth, particularly in gold. The significance of this? It cannot be overstated. His first-hand accounts forever dispelled those prejudice myths held by the outside world that sub-Saharan Africa was just this disconnected, isolated region. Section 4. Architect of Modern Globalization. Finally, in 1354, after nearly 30 years of continuous travel across these incredibly diverse landscapes, Ibn Battuta returns home to Morocco. He carried with him more empirical, first-hand knowledge of the diverse human experience than almost anyone else in history up to that very moment. And fortunately for us, the Marinid Sultan of Morocco recognized the immense value of all these experiences and commissioned a scribe, Ibn Juzai, to record them. The result is the Rihla, or the journey. And guys, it is so much more than a simple travelogue. It's a full-blown 14th century historical, geographical, and cultural encyclopedia. Through all the meticulous details in the Rihla, Ibn Battuta definitively proved that the world was not a collection of unknowable, isolated entities, but an interconnected tapestry. His observations literally laid the groundwork for a global consciousness, showing that common threads like the pursuit of knowledge, community, and justice ran through all human societies.
Ibn Battuta didn't just travel the world. His quiet, persistent footsteps helped build the very idea of it as a shared space. So ask yourself, if one man, traveling purely on foot and camel, could uncover the interconnected tapestry of the 14th century, how will you use today's boundless connections to better understand our world? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep that curiosity alive, keep exploring, and I'll see you next time.